this pathetically weak world, only the strongest rise to heights of great power. I control this city, and soon I will be master of this world. Nothing can stand in my way. No police, no government, and certainly not these mutant freaks.
Let's try that again, metalhead.
I will crush them all. I am the Shredder.
Bundy here. You there. The 2025 fantasy football season has come to an end, with Super Shredder defeating Porkchop Express by a final score of 92-84. This is not a recap. I don't want you to consider this a recap because I don't do recaps anymore. This is me returning to the scene of the crime to explain to you why Paul lost. Did you notice? Did you notice when Paul was posting his videos of him in Canada? I think it was Sunday morning, and he was telling everybody that he came to Canada to end whatever curse that I had started. And then, later that afternoon, everything changed. Later that afternoon, it was, oh, Hochi's ruined everything here in Canada. All of a sudden, the power was too great for him to bear it, to defeat it. Everything switched up. Even Jay jumped in. Of course he did. Of course Jay had to jump in and support. Jay was in a very difficult position this year. Jay was in a difficult position to either support his podcast co-host or the guy who he always supports in trades, in sickness, and in health, Porkchop Express. So Jay had to jump in and also say, yeah, that's what you're doing. You're curing whatever. Afterwards, when Paul changed the whole story, the whole narrative, you notice that Jay never said anything else, huh? Jay never added to that. I think that's significant. Paul's mentality before the Monday night games, I think, changed. I'm not saying that this was the reason why he lost. I'm just observing how he sort of decayed as the hours went along, even with a 30-point lead by the end of the Sunday night games. Now, Commish was in a similar position in 2024. The Commish went into Monday night versus Team Bundy in last year's chip. The Commish was up 125-68. And I had Amon St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Jake Bates, the kicker. By the end of the game, Brown ended up scoring 12, Gibbs with 21, and Bates with 11, losing 112 to 125. So the Commish had very, very stressful championships. He earned it. I think in the past, some of us have had fantasy championships where we knew we had it in the bag, maybe the Monday night or at the beginning of the Sunday games. But this was very stressful. That's what this time of year does to you if you're actually competing in fantasy. If you're not, you're just sitting back and watching the chaos ensued. And boy, did I enjoy it. By the way, by the end of the Sunday night games, I told Eric and Andy, I'm sick of both of these guys. I'm sick of them and their prospects and their prospect of winning. I'm sick of the probabilities. I'm sick of both of them. Somebody get this over with. And the Commish got it over with. Monday night, Paul had Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua. Let me tell you something about Puka Nacua. Puka was a second-round pick in this league last year. For 2026, Puka Nacua is probably going to be the number 1 selected wide receiver. I think ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs. JSN won't be available because the commish will keep him. Let's see if JSN pulls it off again. But Puka will be the number 1 receiver in this league. And I say that as a future lottery picker. I say that as somebody who is extremely interested in picking up Puka. Commish was so fortunate of these 30-yard passes. One was at the goal line for Puka. The other was an actual touchdown that Puka amazingly caught. And both called back. So fortunate. The commish was so fortunate. I was on Paul's side. Because even in the second half, I thought he had an opportunity to win. And obviously he did with the callbacks. He had this one in the bag. Puka Nacua is a generational talent at the wide receiver position. Matthew Stafford. What did he put up? 14 points. 12 points. I gave him too much credit. 12 points for Matthew Stafford. On the way to the Sunday games, I remember speaking to Andy about this game, and I shared my frustrations with Paul. And I think at the end, I sort of muttered, I hope Baker scores more. And guess what? Baker did score more, just 4 points more. But I think this adds to what I told Paul earlier in the season when I was trying to get him to accept the trade with Matthew Stafford. I wish nothing but the worst for all of you when you deny my trades and you think that you're smarter and you think that you're more savvy and you think that 4 points less. 4 points less. Oh, yes. And I also have to say that I'm glad that I didn't contribute to the Commish's championship situation. You know, taking away Travion Henderson and giving him Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving scoring 2 points. And Travion Henderson, who the Commish would have started, scoring 8 points. So look at that, Paul. I helped you out. Team Bundy helped you out. 6 points less, and you still couldn't defeat him. What does this mean for Paul? Paul is he's regressed to what he has always been, which is a team that has great seasons but just can't finish for whatever reason. Kamara incidents, Drake May incidents, 32 points from Drake May. For whatever reason, when it comes to the chip, Paul sort of tucks his tail in between his legs and he goes skiing. That's the other thing that you ought to pay attention to. One man was skiing and another man was stressed, just staring at his phone, just watching games with a certain amount of grief, because that's what you do. You don't hope for the best. It's a trauma response, really, and you're stressed. You want to win, and did the commish get a victory because he cared more and Paul was living the fast life? Paul was OBJ and the rest of those Giants on the boat counting his chickens before they hatched? Is that what he did? Tried to blame Team Bundy? Brandon Aubrey, as I said, in order for the commish to get the victory, Brandon Aubrey had to get at least 3 opportunities, and he ended up getting that, connecting 3 field goals versus the Washington Commanders and 3 extra points, 16 points in total. And I think I should just announce this now. The commish, I regret to inform you that the commish is also the winner of the very first Golden Leg Award, awarded to the team with the number 1 kicker in the Fantasy Football League. Now, at the beginning of the season, Eric gave me pushback on what he thought that the award should be based on. He thought that the award should be based on whoever scores the most every week with kickers in that slot. And guess what? The commish won that too. And I think even in the fantasy draft, the commish agreed with Eric. He said, I also think, shut the fuck up. This is my award. Okay? You have to accept my gift. The award was meant to emphasize individual kickers. It's not meant to praise the guy who just scores more. That doesn't matter because that doesn't prioritize names. All right? Brandon Aubrey, along with Puka Nacua, who will be the first picked at his position unless somebody picks Jamar Chase, which that's debatable. He was a bit inconsistent this year. Brandon Aubrey will be the very first kicker selected. When did the commish select Brandon Aubrey? Let's see. I know he had him a couple years prior. With the 14th pick, the 131st selection overall, the commish selected Brandon Aubrey. He will be selected maybe just a little earlier than that. If he can put up these type of numbers for your squad towards the end of the season, from week 13 on, with exception to week 16, it was a 12, 24, 14. Then in week 17, when you needed him the most, 16 points. So the commish is the winner of the Golden Leg Award. Please either send me your address privately or in the chat, and I will have your prize sent to you before the Super Bowl. I'll try to send it before the Super Bowl, I promise. Folks, this is what we have before us. What we have before us is an evolution. A couple years ago, when I was doing these recaps, I think a lot of you were confused about my approach. And you thought that because I put myself at top of everything, I was putting myself at top of everything because I will always put myself at top of everything. You understand? But it wasn't that. It was just a coincidence. I was making recaps and I was constantly talking shit, and I had more championships than anyone. If I were Hensel, if I were Joe, the recaps would have birthed from a different perspective. They would still be braggadocious. Oh yes, I would still talk my shit, but they would be a bit different. And things have changed. Things have changed since Andy did what he did. Things have now changed again now that the commish did what he did. Isn't it crazy that in 2014, I said several times, even after that, I don't think anyone's ever gonna win back-to-back championships after Jay did it. Then Andy went one step further and won 3, and now the commish is in the middle of his dynasty. What this really does is tarnish Jay's legacy. That's what this does. This tarnishes Jay's legacy. What you have before you is the new king of the Real Deal League. Commish is at the top until further notice, until things change next season. And things can change next season in an instant. Paul could come back, but he stands to gain the very same thing that he could have gained this year. So he takes a step back. Team Bundy could come back and win his 4th championship. Then it's debatable whether I'm on top of the commish or not, unless, of course, I beat the commish in the championship. Then that's a good way to get that discussion started. If Paul would have won, what I said last week meant that Paul's place over me would have been debatable. I wasn't talking about anybody else. I was talking about Team Bundy. Paul would have had 2, and I have 3. I think, in my opinion, if we're to move forward, going into our 20th season, moving forward, when we're discussing who's placed where, I think we should look at individual battles. I think we should look at matchups. And stacking me up against Paul means it's stacking me up against my worst matchup. You see, we're open here. We're open to the idea of people toppling us. That's fine. We accept it. Just as long as you have to accept when we topple them, we take that position once again, that position that you thought was my default position. It was really realistically the position that I was in. But we've moved on. The commission's at the top now. Paul just drifts into what could possibly be a good draft. If you're drafting 9th and 12th, that's a good position to pick up some great players. Unless, of course, they get hurt in the first quarter of the season. But that's what you've got in front of you. You've got a manager who is the undisputed top of this league. And I also want to say that the discussion of top teams, I think, is what we should move towards. Not just speaking about people's individual seasons when they happen, but it's been 20 years. It's been 20 years. Pedro was the first champion. That was eons ago. That was ages ago. And now we're here. For the commission, it took 20 years to get to the top. He wasn't at the top before, but he is now. What's going to happen in the next 20 years? That's all I ask. So we should always consider that. So Super Shredder is your 2025 fantasy football champion. Go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. Get out of here. Get out of here.